Hello, everybody. I believe we are live now. We are excited to kick off our webinar with you this afternoon or this morning for those of us who are joining in North America. So for our webinar today, it is titled AI in the Aisle, How Finance Teams in Retail, FMCG, and Distribution are Staying Ahead. Just to introduce myself quickly, my name is Bria Matheson. I work with our enterprise partnerships teams here at Farseer, and I'm going to be moderating our conversation today. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Farseer, just a quick overview of what it is that we do. We are an FP&A platform that gives finance teams a single source of truth to plan, model, report, and of course, use AI to create efficiencies within our FP&A processes. So before we dive into our webinar today, I just wanted to give a few housekeeping items for our attendees so that you're comfortable and can engage with our panelists as we go through. So first things first, our webinar today is going to be recorded. And on your screen, you're going to see a few different features on your right-hand side. The first one is a Q&A box. So please submit any questions that you have as the panelists are presenting, because hopefully we are going to have a few minutes at the end of our conversation today to answer some audience questions. Secondly, we have our chat panel, which you can feel free to use the chat to share any comments or insights or react to anything our panelists are saying throughout our conversation. And maybe to warm things up today for attendees, if you wouldn't mind dropping where you're attending from, I think that'd be really fun to share since we never really know how far webinars can reach sometimes. Let's have a look. We got Croatia, we got Zagreb, we got Maryland, USA, fantastic. And then finally for today, we have polls. So we are going to launch a couple polls throughout the conversation. Audience would love to hear your reactions to those. So please feel free to participate if you're comfortable. Last but not least, we've also put together an ebook on AI in CPG and FMCG. Normally, this is a gated piece of content for us here at Farseer. However, we've opened it up for you today so you can have immediate access to review. We think it really aligns quite well with the topic of conversation for our panelists today. So without further ado, let's actually jump right in. We're going to kick off with our very first poll for today while I introduce our panelists. So you'll see the question come up on screen here. Where has AI actually helped your finance team in the last 12 months? Please take a second to answer, and I'm going to jump in and introduce our panelists. So first up for today, we have Vinant Brits, who is joining us from Walmart Canada. Vinant is the Senior Manager of Corporate FP&A, and he's coming with a very unique view of sitting inside a global mass retailer that has been at the forefront of much of the AI adoption at Walmart Canada. Next, we have Vedran Obadic, who is the Senior Finance and Supply Chain Director at Mlinar Group. Vedran sits across the entire value chain of his organization. And for those who may or may not be familiar with Mlinar, it is a manufacturer with 5 different production facilities, a retailer with 300 plus owned stores across Croatia, Slovenia, and Serbia, and a wholesaler and exporter that's shipping B2B into 20 plus markets. So really covering a whole multitude of things. And finally, we have Kenneth Fick, who is an independent FP&A writer and consultant with 20 plus years across consulting, retail, finance services, and even a little bit of government. Kenneth, I'm hoping today that you can be a bit of our reality check. I understand you have quite a few war stories and references to back up and maybe debunk some of the AI claims that we'll talk through today. Maybe you can also help us understand what's genuinely new from what's maybe gotten a new label when it comes to AI and finance.
So looking forward to it.
Thank you to all 3 of you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Looking forward to the chat.
Fantastic. Let's have a look at the audience's response to our first poll. So where has AI actually helped your finance team in the last 12 months? Makes sense that automation and reporting and consolidation has come up. And then very interestingly, about 50-50 split of honestly, nowhere yet, and maybe a little bit with narrative writing and commentary. So let's kick things off to our panelists. I want to propose the question to all of you. So where has AI actually helped your team in the past 12 months? And maybe Vinant, you can kick us off with your perspective from Walmart Canada.
Perfect. I think it's probably a well-known fact that Walmart has really heavily laid into AI, agentic AI, and kind of everything innovation related. It is not familiar to walk around the floor and just see terminals up and people coding away. That's the beauty of it. So I think maybe I could call just one or two use cases that I'm working on currently. So I recently did a prototype over a weekend, something that was unheard of previously, of where I've integrated all our corporate reporting into a single Power BI platform. Did it all by just vibe coding, put in the prompts, did some data validation, and I think that's the key, just having that human in the loop, but completely integrating and having it all in one spot. So previously we were wasting a lot of time in content switching from report to report. Now everything is housed in one area. I've created a agentic layer that captures a lot of those FP&A critical tools, like capturing the one-off non-recurring stuff. So a little bit of technical stuff. And then maybe another interesting one is we recently consolidated everything under what we call the control tower. And this is my personal use case. It is consolidating about 20 different FP&A critical tasks and activities that we do that's scattered across a peripheral of SharePoint, OneDrive, all under one housing. So it provides governance, it provides rigor, it provides robust reporting and visibility to leadership. So these are just some of the things that we're doing, but the use cases from machine learning to pricing to availability, everything is kind of working in unison, and we're really starting to see the fruits come through in our organization.
Very interesting. Vinant, just a quick note on your side. I think your Wi-Fi might be a little bit choppy there, but your audio seems to be coming through. So just wanted to flag that for you while the rest of the panelists jump in. Anything to add to that? Ken, Vedran, would love to hear your thoughts on what's happening in your organizations.
Certainly. Vedran, do you want to go first?
Honestly, we are still somewhere in between these two pools answers. Honestly, nowhere yet, and writing narrative, to be completely honest. We here in Mlinar are yet in, let's call it, beginner phase of the AI adoption, as we are kind of traditional industry and a very complex one, as Brie already mentioned. So it's a kind of hard for us to get a jump start, but we adopted it for quick consultations, for narrative writing, for quick tasks that we need to do. But the thing is that, from my opinion, honestly, is that AI is just one of the tools that we have. Tools are just as smart as the users are. So basically, what we are leaning on is something to replace the repetitive tasks, which are not necessarily need to be smart tools. So we are working a lot with the RPA, so robot automation processes, with the MES systems, with the Farseer, and lately, for the last 2 years, we really got a big help from Farseer in the optimization of the budgeting process, etc., etc. So I wouldn't lean on the AI, but rather on the tool that help in optimize the efficiency of the business.
Yep. 100%.
Interesting. For me, it's interesting. It actually, there's two parts to this question. One part of it is location, oddly enough, at least for the U.S. The West Coast of the U.S., California, the smaller companies I've worked for, much more open to adoption. A lot of in Texas, you have SpaceX, you have a lot of the tech companies that a lot of the smaller, it's part of what their DNA, I guess. On the East Coast, larger, more industrial companies, they don't know what they don't know. So that's a lot of what I work with. So large professional services, their current position in government, I just got them off of paper 2 years ago for managing payables, which is insane when you think about it. But the art of the possible is the problem. So there's very intelligent people, a lot of them with computer science degrees. But one thing with AI, it's moved from, or I used to work with companies that adopt RPA, robotic process automation. Well, with AI, it's prompting. So like we talked about vibe coding. We talked about other things like that. Well, they don't know what they don't know. So one of the things I'm working with Microsoft right now to bring in is, well, I have a Power Platform, and I have Google, and I have access to everything, and I have Gemini and a Copilot. Well, great. Well, when I open up my, and on the web, you open it up, and my people see 20 different apps. They don't know how to use them. They use two. They use Excel and Word, maybe PowerPoint.
Yep.
So, and even Excel for my people, I'd say, in my opinion, they use 20% of it, maybe 50 for the advanced ones. I mean, I use Power Pivot. I can bring Power BI. I use some of the VBA coding, but they don't even understand that. And it's getting them to understand just to ask the right questions to us and to move for AI and how to interact with it in regards to the prompting. There's this natural tendency, well, some kid put in and they wrote a whole paper. Yeah, and it's horrible. That's not how you use it. That it's the beginning. That is not prompting. That's cheating. So it's a difference in how we use it.
Yeah, if I can maybe add that we actually dubbed something called the citizen developer. That's a new kind of way of thinking of how we interact with these technologies. I think previously these solutions and developments has always kind of been earmarked for the developer, for the techie that sits in a dark room and creates these nice dashboards and automations. What this now allows us to do is, and this is the exciting part, it's us, the finance professionals, that now has the capability of creating these tools. And literally, you just need to get your hands dirty. It's not something you're going to learn in a textbook and being able to apply. So you didn't master craft finance within a week. You're not going to learn AI in a week. And it's literally just said, start playing with these tools and identifying what's available and start seeing your happy path, how you're going to create value out of it.
If I could just jump in there real quick. Yes, I agree with you. One of the resistance I found through companies is their IT department. Because when you do that, even for me, getting access to the cloud like Azure and putting databases and tables up there, we have cybersecurity risks and things of that nature, and they won't give me full access to the power that is available to them because of that, and they're scared. And I'm not against them. I'm just saying, I'm not saying we can't work through it, but for the people on this webinar, I completely, and citizen development ownership is the way to go, but just be working with your IT department. Don't assume a no is a no. Assume a no is find another way.
Very, very interesting points. I have a follow-up for you, Ken, on kind of how you're...
Or not a yes yet.
Absolutely. I have a follow-up question for you, Ken, on the teams that you've seen roll out with AI, maybe over the past, 6 to 12 months. You're working with a lot of different finance leaders. And so I'm curious of, what their resistance may be to AI, or on the inverse, what are some of the common ways that you've seen some finance leaders maybe convince themselves that something is working with AI when maybe it really isn't? I'm curious if you have any stories around that.
Sure. So the biggest resistance is the public media and the scaring that it does. And that's, fear and greed. So I'm not against media. I'm just saying that's what they sell. And they say, well, first of all, what about our data? They're going to use our data to train their models. Okay, well, let's get over that hump. You know what I mean? And that's easy. No. I mean, that when you buy it and you say, no, you don't do it. And you make sure it's secure. So that hump can be overdone. The second thing is the application of it. So once they're comfortable that their data, whatever you put in there, is not going to be used and not going to be stolen and not going to be building other things for some other person's profitability, is how to use it. And the best way that I've seen is to get people involved in their performance reviews. So unfortunately, a lot of, and for all companies, because that they always want these big, gigantic, implementations. I'm like, start small. You need to get people comfortable. Start with simply that. And the reason I say performance reviews is because I'm sure about you guys, most companies I work with, unfortunately, live in email. And when you go through the past year, I have 60 people that report up to me, 3 direct. But, I don't remember what everybody is. So I just ask, I use Gemini in my emails. I go, okay, what has this person done in the past 12 months? And I have a list, but I forgot about that. And, they are not allowed to have AI write it for them. But in regards to that, like there was, oh my God, that saved me a bunch of time. And once they get comfortable understanding, oh, wait a minute, this isn't going to take my job, this is enhancing my job, then these companies that I've seen in professional services, I've seen them in smaller, even retailers, a lot of retailers in CPG at the corporate level, realize, oh, they're not taking away my job, they're making my job better, easier, faster. And that is the hump. Then you can start implementing these larger projects, in my opinion.
Great point on that. And I think you made a really interesting comment in the beginning about the data side of things with a lot of leadership and what that looks like in finance. And so I think that transitions nicely into our next question for the group. However, before we jump into it, we of course have another poll that's ready to go. So maybe we can launch that live as well. So when it comes to the data side of things with AI and trusting the data that we're seeing as finance professionals, the poll says, which channel do you trust the least? Is it distributors? Is it retail partners? Maybe your own internal reporting? Would love to hear your thoughts. Let's see what the results may look like. We'll give everyone a few seconds to answer. All right. Retail partners can be tough. All of the above, maybe some marketplaces along the way. So I think that's a perfect question because it comes down to, what does trusting your numbers mean? Especially when, the structure of your organization can be quite complex. We know that things are constantly changing in the world and within our own teams. And so a couple of you live this quite vividly. Vainant, I know with Walmart Canada, you are reporting up into your US parent. And, Vedran, you obviously have your manufacturer side of things, your wholesaler, your retailer, all within a single finance function. And so I guess the question for the group would be, with all of the complexity that you're seeing within your organization, how are you using AI to sift through and trust your data? I know, Ken, when we met earlier that you said that we could do a whole webinar on this one question alone. So I'm curious, where is AI jumping in to help you trust, or is it creating more distrust? And where is it helping you sift through all of that data that you have versus maybe just giving you more of it? So I'll hand that over to maybe Vedran. Do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, of course, no problem. As you already mentioned, Mlinar operates across the retail, production, but between these two, we also have our own logistic fleet with 250 trucks that are delivering everything. So basically, very complex business under one roof. So taking all that into consideration, the data that we are operating with is quite extensive. Honestly, I never heard anyone complaining of too much data, but the thing is that the data quality can be sometimes bad, and garbage in, garbage out. Basically, it's there isn't the AI that can help you with that. So the start of it, we need to cleanse the data. And we need to understand what data are available. Just to give you an example from my end, Mlinar was a privately owned company until 2029 when one private equity mid-Europe acquired it, and data, as in majority of privately owned companies, were not structured, to say it nicely, back then. But there were a lot of information available about production, about the quantity sold, about the logistic routes. Basically, a lot of data were available, but they were not used, and they were not structured in a way that somebody could make a decision out of them. So when I joined Mlinar just after the COVID crisis in 2021, one of my first jobs was to untangle the data, which was already available in the system. And the second thing was to establish the budgeting process, which goes hand to hand. Back then, there weren't any AI available, so we need to do it by hands. We managed to connect the dots, to clean the data, but it was really painful process, which lasted for I'd even say in a years, a couple of years. We're still struggling with some of the key data, the mother data that we have, but majority of it is structured and we can now use it. The thing is that we built out of that, we built the process, we built the budgeting process that goes bottom up from the SKU to the final budget. What I see now, if we have the AI back then, it would be much faster. Not necessarily better, but faster. If we do it today, I'd again say that the AI can make us faster for sure, but it is as good as the person that uses it. It's just a tool. I can already explained it. It's just like an Excel, just like Farseer, just like WMS, MES system, and any other system. It's good as a person that uses it. So what we are using the AI now is, as I already mentioned, to do the repetitive tasks, do some tasks that need to be cleansed, data cleansing, which they're all, again, a bunch of data. And one of the most interesting things that we see now, which Weinert also mentioned, is visualization of data and helping with presenting of the data in a meaningful way, which can now be done a lot faster than was done before. So, but still, I'll always lean to the people and how they use it rather than okay, now we have the AI and we can do anything. We can, but we still need to think about the data.
Anything to add to that, Weinert or Ken?
Yes, I think from our perspective, and obviously we have the luxury of having a global parent, and we've got a lot of scale around us. So I think some of the things that we've seen is just that data integrity. Vedran talked about unstructured data and that stuff. With a large organization, I think one of the most critical things is, if you really want to get the true benefit of AI, it's standardization, ensuring that every region, every single area that you manage is looking at things the same. If someone's talking about units in merchandising, that definition of a unit needs to be the same across supply chain. That just allows AI to kind of span across the different categories and the different verticals seamlessly and actually talk the same language. Because I think the misconception, and Vedran also mentioned that, is that triad of people, process, and technology. AI is just one of those. AI is not the silver bullet that's going to fix everything. AI is one leg of technology. People bring the expertise and processes and how you actually use these different tools to extract value. So I think maybe I just want to ground everyone on that. If you think AI is going to solve every problem, it's probably a little way away from that. There's still a lot of work to be done before that happens. And then I think one of the things, because I'm heavily involved also in the awareness and rollout of AI, it is leadership. We talked about trust. Ken spoke about tech not giving you access, and it's about a culture of trust. And I think that's a leadership responsibility. It's a top-down approach. You can do as many activation campaigns you want, but leadership really needs to have that emphasis on, we trust our associates to do the right thing. So we are going to be a little bit more agile with our data privacy policies, still keeping within controls and all that, but we're not going to be as rigid as we want, as we used to be. And we're just going to give a little bit more freedom, because I think accountants, especially FP&A, works in silos. And what AI does is it breaks down the silos. So we need to trust each other a little bit more in terms of handing over reports, having over repositories of skills, tools, agents, and all those things. So it's a more of a culture change for me, and a culture drive that really unlocks this AI and the next wave of this industrial revolution.
Thank you for us.
Has that been a challenge for you, Weinert? Like, I'm curious, just from a cultural perspective, before Ken, you jump in. I'm curious, like, what that looked like and where you maybe ran into some of the resistance from leadership around AI adoption, especially within, like you said, an organization, or at least within a type of role where typically things can be a little bit, don't want to say more rigid, but maybe less open to change.
I don't think it's ever a process that you're 100% at. So it's always a kind of a work in progress. But I think we've made great leaps in just making use cases visible and how people are actually leveraging data across different silos and extracting value. Once you have a real proof point, you can take that to leadership and they'll see that there's real value in breaking down these silos and they'll actually run with it. The rest is just a big drive from that top C-suite leadership in having conversations with the risk team, the data team, saying that this is the new way of work. I think everything just starts, like I said, with that proof point. If you can display value, then there's a real carrot to actually drive these conversations, because it's hard, especially for, I also have a financial services background and I know they're lagging a little bit behind in terms of AI adoption because they could always hide behind regulations and that. But I think there's still a lot of kind of chips left on the table in terms of financial services, even with AI adoption, because it is that leadership drive to say that this is the new culture, this is the new kind of strategic steer. For us, we were lucky just with the global parent. The global parent started driving this adoption, and it became the new norm. Because with AI in a large organization, if you type into Copilot, find me a presentation on something, it doesn't stick to the silos. So the way that you need to think of how you structure your data and how you have your privacy and privileges laws in also then plays into fact. So it really becomes just an absolute way of work, continuously thinking of like everything that you put out is usable by everyone.
Fantastic. I actually had a follow-up question about trusting data and using data within, our forecasting and what that looks like with the use of AI. Vedran, just really quickly, just in the interest of time, it really connects to a great story that you told us about retailtainment and your unicorn pastry story that you had at Mlinar. So I'm hoping you can walk us through what exactly happened with that instance and what retailtainment means. And following up on that, connecting it into AI and in our FP&A, I'm curious about this story because it's a demand spike that you experienced, and I'm wondering how these types of anomalies are being predicted with AI, or how you're using AI to, adjust your forecasting when these types of instances come up. So I guess in the realm of speed and some of those variables that are coming up within our organizations, what that looks like. So maybe, Vinette, you can jump in with that story and tell us a little bit more as well.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, maybe just a quick intro from the perspective of the AI and the prediction. We are working in the world where the end customer is just a human, and it's basically the end consumer who has a different urges and different perspectives, and it's really hard to envisage the expenditures. It's basically, it can be predicted in some sort of a linear or some sort of the trends, but sometimes it's really something that you can't predict. Yes, the story behind it's not the unicorn pastry, it's in fact Berliner. It's the donut without a hole for the people outside of the region, or the outside of the Europe. Basically, in Croatia, there's this carnival tradition where everybody are dressing the masks, and it's not the Halloween. It's day before Ash Wednesday, so it happens in February or March, depending on the year. Basically, yeah, as said, no unicorn donut, but it's really the great donut that is filled with the chocolate, the taste for chocolate, pistachio, and raspberry vanilla. Great ones. Try it in Mlinar in the region. To be back on the story. Basically, in 2025, we had the exact same donut, the exact same feelings, exact same prices, same stores, more or less. And investment in marketing, we sold around 1 million of these donuts. In 2026, everything the same. If you ask me my personal opinion, I liked marketing campaign more in 2025, and we sold 2 million of these donuts, almost 2 million. So it went double, and our our initial estimation was 30 to 40% increase. So we planned on increase on this, but not doubling the sale. Once we were first shocked, once it all started, because this season lasts for about 2 to 3 weeks. So when it first started, we were surprised. We were struggling to find any supplies, because we saw that we would be out of stock even before the carnival day. So we were just trying to get every donut that we could, and because we knew that we will sell them. And once everything went down, we went back and tried to analyze what happened. So the thing was that we engaged in 2026 couple of influencers where they filmed themselves and eating our donuts, and they saw that the donut was filled with this sugary sweet fillings, and they were all messy, and people liked it, and people also started to buy donuts and started to film themselves, and it went completely viral. The thing was that the people were looking for the experience. So this is something that we like to call retailtainment, where people, even in this traditional industry as a bakery industry, people are started to look for an experience rather than the product. Of course, product needs to be good quality, affordable price and everything, but still they want to feel special, that they have something that is different from anything others. We saw that already, that there are hypes around some products when we offer it something new that is special, something where we put people. We also had this pumpkin spice latte that we sold during the holiday Halloween season and autumn season, which with the sprinkles, and the teenagers rushed and buy these products. So we see that not just the younger generation, but also everybody are looking for experience rather than just the product. So it's a kind of shift in all the industries, not just the industries that are leaning on the experience.
Absolutely. And when it comes to like creating these experiences or anticipating these experiences, I think it falls within a category of, a variable of quick change. And, that could also include things like, the geopolitical environment, anything that's really impacting how our supply and demand could potentially be adjusted. So I guess, Vinant and Vedran, just quickly on your side, are you using AI at all to like help predict any of this within your forecast planning, or is it something where you just need to be able to quickly adjust in the moment when these things tend to happen?
I think there's a growing kind of trend in us, because we are heading into that world where we rely more on machine learning kind of algorithms. It is to bring in some of those variables and predictable events. I know there's a lot that goes around our seasonal kind of pricing and our seasonal assortment, but also with this new ML models, you can start bringing in elements such as weather to help us with our seasonal planning of apparel and also outside. So it is twofold, not there yet, but also starting to incorporate those elements to really get a good sense of where our demand is going, and how do we ensure that our replan stays closely aligned to that demand as well.
Yeah, from our perspective, as said, we're kind of different with a narrower assortment than the Walmart. So we are trying to have this core assortment, not trying. We do have this core assortment that we have, and let's say 20% of assortment that we are trying to change and replace. And it's always easier, not easy, but easier to predict the movements and the changes from this core assortment, which is stable, and it has similar trends comparing to the last year and last periods. But this one, as said, is really something that we expect that will hit that will be a great success, but sometimes it goes really up or really down. That is completely different from what we expected. So if we are expecting something, who are the experts in the industry, it's really hard to put the bet on the AI that he will predict something better than we do with the insight and with the understanding of the customers. So honestly, yes, we can do it, and I see that it will be in the future something that will help us to again become faster, more agile, and better in understanding this regular spikes, seasonality, holiday season, etc., which is happening each and every year. But we will always have, hopefully, that we will always have, and each and every year we will have at least one donut that will be a spike that we completely missed on the positive side.
Absolutely.
Just real quick, you don't predict, Bria. You don't predict the unicorn donut. You plan for it. Sorry, Wayne. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good point. And I think it's really interesting too, where, the context of, or I guess the point of context matters. AI isn't always going to predict everything. We know our businesses best. So let's wrap up for today. Thank you all. I have one final poll for the audience that's going to come up here. And the question is, if you could go back in time, looking back at your careers and also maybe looking forward into your careers, what would you tell your 18-year-old self to study? Would it still be finance, assuming everyone attending is a finance professional, or would it be something different? So we'll run that, and we'll keep an eye on the poll results here. But I would love your take, all three of you, on this. Hindsight is always 2020. Would love to know everything that you know now about your careers and about how quickly AI has been moving. Would you still have chosen your chosen career path, or would you have studied something different? Looks to be a little bit different here. Forget finance, go into tech, and some people would not change a thing. So maybe, Ken, do you want to kick us off on this final question?
Finance and accounting. So both. They're the language of business, and they're never going to go away. We still need some, just like Wynan said about data. We need to understand, interpret, and read it. How we learn, the only thing I'd say to that is you begin with your degree. My education was a start, my formal education. I have learned, and you need to continue to learn. If you don't do that, and you have to learn tech, you will become obsolete. So that's my only caveat.
Yeah, of course. Study finance, it will teach you the basics and the lingo. You'll need to write a good prompt for the AI. So you'll study finance. No, jokes aside, honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. I really enjoyed my college, as Ken already said. My college journey, as well as my CFA degree that I started, because, as Ken said, it's just beginning, just a kickstart, and the learning gives you the perspective of looking at the big picture rather than be something that is really narrow. And honestly, this is something that I like a lot when I'm discussing with the tech people that are tech consultants that are trying that are implementing things in Mlinar. I always struggle with the guys that, okay, we have this, so your expertise is in tech, mine is in finance or in operations. So please, let's make it up together, but they can't look much beyond their tech things. So I really kind of like that in the consultants, that they are lacking a big picture and perspective on the business, complete business, not just one side of it.
Vainant, your turn on this one.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have the unpopular opinion. I would probably lean a little bit more towards the tech side, but still finance. I still think your course should be finance and you should be business orientated. But I believe that the way that we teach finance and the way that you get these qualifications and dissertations should change slightly. I'm a big proponent of investing into meta skills. So so systems thinking, process thinking. So I've also got a background in Lean Sigma 6. And then also, when you are now entrenched in this AI world, is how do you actually go from idea to product? You don't just do it one shot. So I would say throw in some agile methodology, maybe some lean startup to get value really quickly, because I think us as accountants, we want to plan everything to the nth degree, and that really slows down some of this prototyping kind of culture that we're trying to instill. So I would say leaning towards the tech side, but introduce it into finance. So really teach accountants how to flourish in the 21st century rather than the old way of just sticking straight to the lane, because I think the silos are breaking down and the barriers are breaking down, and now it's required of FP&A to understand operations, understand logistics, to understand how AI works. So I think we should maybe rethink a little bit of how we are training our upcoming Asian professionals.
Absolutely. I think, the way we've always done things is always changing now. And so we can't get comfortable. And I really appreciate all of your insights on that. So hopefully, some of those who are still moving up in their careers can take that and run with it. Just in the interest of time, we have time for one question from our audience today before we wrap up. And so I'm going to jump over to the question submitted from Roberto. So what would you say is the main issue with adoption for new tools? Is it trust in the tools? Is it the learning curve, lack of incentives? I'm assuming this is in relation to AI tools. And so I'll hand it over to you panelists to jump in.
I guess I'll go first. Trust is a big thing, but that can be overcome. Initial trust in regards to that. I've talked about technology. That can be overcome. I've overcome that. But trust in regards to understanding the data. So I'm going to bring two things together, what Vedran said and Wynan said. Brendan said garbage in, garbage out. Yes. And then Wynan also mentioned people, process, technology. So the garbage in, garbage out is trust, right? Because you have to have the right data. For anything like you're implementing a Farseer or any program, right? Most of the time should actually be done prep before you even go into anything. It's data prep. It's everything else like that. Technology side, in regards to this garbage in, garbage out, and into the other side is technology. No platform, software, anything has made anything better. They can make you do bad things faster, good things better, but they are simply a tool, and how you leverage them is going to matter. So I'd say that trust in the data through that process and the data going into it, after you overcome the initial, this is my data, it's secure, is what needs to be done.
I maybe just quickly lean on Ken's what he said. I'm completely with you on this one, because what I saw, and I was just in one other conference couple of months ago, and the guy from the PwC in Serbia also did a presentation how the AI went when they implemented the AI within the PwC for their employees, and it was the strongest model, of course, the best thing that they could have at the moment. And the bills were enormous. They were huge because it's on the prompt, blah blah blah, pricing strategy. And once they started to analyze, is that 40 to 50% of the questions were because to understand the background, the guys from the PwC you probably know as the old consultants, young people. Majority of questions were where to go out on the Friday night, what is the best fast food in this part of the city, etc., etc. Now, since the Ken is talking, I'm just thinking our case in Mlinar, where we adopted Claude, is that everybody wants it, and once they get it, they don't know what to do with it. So it's the thing that, from my perspective, the process, it's not the people don't trust the AI. It's that they just don't know where to put it. It's just the buzzword that we need to have the AI. But okay, as Ken said, now we have it. What to do with it? It's just a part of the process. It will make you better. But if you don't understand your process and what needs to be improved, it's just as good as the good old pen and paper. So I think that the resistance comes from the lack of the process, lack of understanding of the process within the company, and understanding of what needs to be improved with the AI. It's not the data. It's just the alibis for not implementing it.
Yeah. I think from my side, great point there, Vedran. I think you guys covered it really well. So I'll maybe go on the change management route. I think it needs to be both a two-prong approach, top down and bottom up. So bottom up is where you have your committees that share use cases, share early successes, and top down is really that culture of safety. So you need to. We've had years, hundreds of years of doing, or not hundreds, but decades of doing things the same way. This is the biggest change that humankind have seen in a very, very short amount of time. Comes with fears of change and all those things. So it is up to the leadership to kind of create that environment of safety where people can experiment and they feel safe enough to experiment. And then also leadership should probably we've seen that in our space, change the expectations, because if you're creating this environment of experimentation, you should be comfortable in seeing some errors and missteps being made, and it's a learning opportunity rather than it is a penalizing opportunity. So have your safeguards in place to ensure that you don't make like Ken said, wrong decisions really quickly, but also don't quell the culture of experimentation. So for us, it's been a phenomenal journey. I think we had our first trainings on Copilot and that just about over a year ago. And now AI is entrenched everywhere in the world just because we have that two-prong approach is really giving fruit. So it takes a long time to get momentum. But once you have momentum and you start really elevating, some of the successes go over. I've always said a carrot is a lot better than a stick. So judging people, incentivizing people on usages, you'll get people really asking AI what's the best restaurant in the area. But if you really kind of highlight people, SFA creating a phenomenal application that is saving us millions, that is the pearls that you really want to kind of bubble up and incentivize people to out of their own start being curious and really playing around with this technology.
Great points all around. That brings us to our time for today. We ran a few minutes over because we had some really great answers. So I want to thank all three of you, Mlinar, Vedran, Ken. Thank you so much for a candid conversation and for joining us and taking time out of your days. For our audience, if you haven't yet grabbed our ebook about our AI and CPG and FMCG, we have the link still available for you to access it before it goes back to being gated. And final note for anyone who is interested in learning more about what we do here at Farseer and how we can improve your current FP&A process, especially when it comes to AI tools, please respond to our follow-up email and we can always coordinate a time to connect. Thank you all. Thanks everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Great chat.
Thank you.